Hey everybody, it's Matt from Akuma Mods. So I had a customer of mine ask me to basically do this video. What it's going to be is a teardown of the GPI case. For the most part, just kind of taking it apart and getting on the inside of it. So some tools we're going to need. We're going to need a pry tool. I do not suggest using a flathead screwdriver, although you can. But you will most likely end up destroying the side of your case if you do. So just take that in mind. Pry tool is probably the best thing to do. The other thing you will need is the screwdriver that comes with the case or something that's like it, because these wells on the middle here are quite deep. So my fancy little powered screwdriver does not get down in there unless you have a longer bit. So without further ado, let's get ahead and get this thing apart. So first we're going to dismantle it a little bit. We're going to take the battery cover off. We're going to take the cartridge completely out. And we have 6 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we're going to go ahead and take those out. Some of these might not come 100% out. I do have this tip kind of magnetized. And, you know, the plastic does kind of hold them a little bit. So if they don't come out, don't worry about it. Just keep an eye on when you're taking the case apart, that they will stay with the case and not pop out and go anywhere else. So far so good. This one's being pretty good with us right now. All right. I think this one actually we're gonna be good with. And if you guys do have one, I do suggest like a magnet little piece here. Something that's magnetized so you can keep all your screws and everything together. And that way we're not losing them, as I don't put them in there in the first place. Okay, one last screw. Alright, so now we're all set. So now all we have to do is pry open the case, and then that way we can get inside. So there's 2 ways you can go about it. I usually go at the top, usually on this side, on the volume side. So on the right side of the case if you're looking at it. And I'll just pry in between. Okay, and then just kind of twist it a little bit. Okay, and you can do that all the way around the case. Do not try and pry it open or anything like that. Just go all the way around the case. All the way around. Okay? See, because even though this is propped open, it's not really propped open 100%. So we want to make sure that all of the case is separated, because you can break the clips that are in there. It's not the end of the world because you do have the 6 screws that hold it together. So there's a 2-step kind of holding process. So there's the screws and then the clips actually. So once we got it apart, you can see that there's a ribbon cable. Now you can detach it either from the front of the case or the back of the case. We're gonna go ahead and detach it from the front. So what I usually do is I'll lay the front flat, and then I'll take the back and just kind of place it up and over. And I'll lift it up a little bit. It's kind of hard to see here because, well, there's not much room to work with. And I'll just kind of press up each side. Sorry about that. I'll press up each side with my fingers and press that up so that releases that. And that's pretty much how you get into the case. Now to remove the board, if you're going to do a D-pad mod, that's pretty self-explanatory again. You got 5 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that will release this entire board and allow you to change out the D-pad. These are smaller screws, so what I do suggest is placing them in a different area. But you should know because one is 6 screws and this one is 5 screws. And they do look significantly different in size. I'm not really sure the size difference between them, but pretty much, they're much smaller than the case screws itself. Now these are in there pretty tight, so when you start unscrewing them, just be careful to put some pressure. I usually use my finger to put pressure down onto it because you can strip the screws off. Now, when I usually take these boards out, first off, we're going to take this off because we could possibly lose that. And secondly, I'll take it off using the micro USB and I'll flip it to the right. The reason being is you have, if you guys can see here, there's the ribbon cable for the LCD screen, and that's also in its like own pocket. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of wiggle it out a little bit, and there we go. So that way it stays in its pocket that you can see, and everything is right there. So once we put it back together, we're going to do the same way. We're going to put it in, and we'll join the two ends together. And that way we got it all set up. So for the most part, that's what you need to do to break it down. Another thing that you guys can do is if you are replacing the rear buttons on here, you do have a couple screws. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 silver and 2 black ones at the top. So they do have some different colorization on there. And again, these are similar screws to what's on the regular PCB board. So once you remove that, you can go ahead and get at these little back buttons pretty easily. And all you have to do, there's a hole right here and a hole right here. All you have to do is just press down, and these buttons will pop right out with no problem. Another way you can do that is if you have, you know, your Phillips head screwdriver and you could get in there, you could kind of pry it in between here, but you got to be very careful because there is a bar that kind of clamps those. The paddles clamp onto it. So if you happen to slip and you put too much pressure on it, you're gonna possibly break that pillar off, and that renders these completely useless because that's how these stay in 100%. They're not screwed in or anything like that. They stay on just with those two alone. So I hope this helped you guys out. If you guys liked the video, go ahead and give that a thumbs up. Go ahead, like, subscribe, whatever you need to do YouTube stuff. Doesn't matter. If you do or don't, if you guys got any questions, comments, concerns, please go ahead and put that below. Until then, happy gaming.